Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating profile called Prismatic Cognition. This is a type of high-energy mind that's both brilliant and, incredibly stressed. We're also going to uncover a surprising, ancient therapy that modern neuroscience suggests might just be the key to supporting it. This question, right here, it gets to the absolute heart of what we're talking about. We're looking at a mind that doesn't just handle complexity, it thrives on it. But it comes at a pretty high cost. It's this direct link where peak performance literally creates peak tension. So let's get into why that happens. All right, so first up, let's get a really clear picture of the kind of thinker we're dealing with here. This isn't just about being smart or being driven. It's a very specific pattern of high-functioning thinking that brings with it a very real, very physical stress load. This quote it nails it. For this kind of person, their biggest challenge isn't the problem they're trying to solve. Nope. It's managing the internal static, the tension, and the ambiguity that their own powerful mind creates. And this mental load isn't just some vague feeling, it's physical. The source material points to these really specific somatic stress points. Think about it. That pressure you feel right above your eyes, the tension at the base of your skull, and that deep, familiar ache in your neck and shoulders. The author even gives it a name, trapezius gray. It's that recognizable. Okay, so what do we even call this cognitive style? The material gives it a name that I think just perfectly captures what it's all about. Prismatic cognition. Let's break down exactly what that means. Think about a prism, right? It takes one single beam of white light and breaks it open, revealing this whole beautiful spectrum of colors. Well, prismatic cognition works kind of like that. It takes these seemingly opposite traits, like being super structured but also wildly flexible, and integrates them into one powerful, multidimensional way of seeing the world. So the foundation of this profile is really a mashup of two key personality traits from the DISC model. You may have heard of it. On one side, you've got the assertive, get-it-done dominance type, or D type, and on the other, you have the analytical, detail-obsessed conscientiousness type, or C type. One is all about driving forward to mastery, while the other is pumping the brakes to make sure every detail is perfect. And when you mix those two, you get what the source calls a DC narrative of control. This leads to something really incredible called multi-monotropic thinking. Now, that sounds complicated, but it isn't. Scattered multitasking, it's more like a conductor leading multiple sections of an orchestra at the same time, paying deep, focused attention to several different streams of thought and weaving them all together. You can imagine that takes a ton of cognitive energy. So we have this complex, high-energy, super stressed profile. The question is, how do you support a mind like this? Well, the sources propose a really fascinating and frankly pretty unexpected intervention. The therapy is called auricular therapy. And yeah, it's an ancient practice that involves applying pressure to very specific points on your outer ear. But don't let that fool you. The reason we're talking about it today is because the argument for using it is grounded in some seriously modern science. And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It seems like a massive leap to go from your ear to your mind. But the answer is absolutely incredible, and it all comes down to the complex neurocircuitry that makes the ear a direct gateway to your body's main control systems. Okay, let's trace the signal. We're going to follow the path from a single point on the ear all the way down into the brainstem to really understand the powerful science that's at play here. So, your outer ear is way more than just cartilage. It's a neurological powerhouse. I want you to think of it like a microsystem, just densely packed with connections to major nerves, like the vagus nerve and the trigeminal nerve. It's basically an information superhighway that leads straight to your central nervous system. The pathway from your ear to your brain is actually a really clear three-step process. It all starts with that physical stimulation on the ear. That, in turn, activates a specific branch of the vagus nerve. Then, that signal zips directly to a critical hub in your brainstem called the nucleus of the solitary tract, which is basically the body's master control panel. And the result of flipping that switch isn't just a feeling. We're talking about measurable biological changes. It raises what's known as vagal tone, which is crucial for emotional regulation. It helps modulate the HPA axis, which is the system that controls our main stress hormone, cortisol. And it can even trigger the release of key neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. It's the real deal.
Okay, so we've seen the powerful biological outcomes. Now let's connect all that science directly back to our prismatic thinker. How exactly does this therapy provide the scaffolding for their high-energy, high-stress mind?
This is where it all clicks into place. This table shows just how perfectly the mechanisms of auricular therapy map onto the specific needs of the prismatic thinker. I mean, look at the top row. The need for control under stress is met by the therapy's ability to modulate that HPA axis. The need for the rhythmic processing that a structured mind craves is supported by the therapy's precise stimulation. And it goes all the way down to the bottom, where it even addresses that somatic tension, that trapezius gray, by regulating the auricular cervical axis. It's a perfect match. And here's where it gets incredibly specific and practical. The sources highlight that for high-performing men, just the stress of being observed, of being under the microscope, can be a huge challenge. The serotonin modulation that comes from auricular therapy can act like a social self-regulator, helping them maintain that strategic composure, that DC narrative of control, so they can stay flexible instead of getting rigid and reactive. And the therapy's ability to stabilize the nervous system goes even further. For a prismatic thinker who also has dyslexia, the therapy's precise tactile input can provide foundational support for a brain that already relies heavily on nonverbal processing. And in a totally different context, for someone who's gone through bariatric surgery, the therapy helps regulate the gut-brain axis, which is absolutely critical for stabilizing a system that's under profound metabolic stress. This quote really gets to the core idea of this whole explainer. The therapy isn't trying to change the person's cognitive style. It's providing bottom-up physiological scaffolding. In other words, it's strengthening the biological foundation, which then allows the prismatic thinker's powerful top-down executive functions to operate at their absolute best. So this leaves us with a final, really powerful question to think about. The story of prismatic cognition and auricular therapy suggests a new path forward for mental wellness. It's one that isn't about trying to force people into a box, but about building personalized scaffolding to support their unique, their complex, and ultimately their powerful cognitive architectures.